I think that's one of my questions. I have questions. I came with questions.
Good.
I'm open for this. I guess one of my questions is, like, I was trying to work out on my way home why I'm not a gamer and why I do things I do and I don't do that, if that makes sense. And I think maybe I'm very output oriented. Like, I knit to make something. I read a book. It gets counted towards my yearly target and it goes on my Instagram with a little review. I make a really amazing meal. There's a photograph on my Instagram and I pass on the recipe. Like, everything I do.
Number the books that you read each year.
I do. Yeah. I literally go hashtag book 32, hashtag book 30. And it's everything I do. I break wind. There has to be an outcome to it. And they're floated. That is the outcome. But, you know, and so I think that's part of my thing, is that to me, I can't figure out a way to make gaming an output.
Yeah.
Like, to quantify that, because Caroline, you say you're committing yourself to thousands of hours. That made me physically recoil as a concept. I'm sorry, do you know what you could do with thousands of hours? Do you know how much you could knit in thousands of hours? And it's fascinating that that's my immediate response. And I'm aware this is turning into a therapy session. But
I was just like, shit, we've just basically started counselling Hannah, haven't we now?
Yeah, that's totally what's happening here.
I'm 100% with you on this, because I have a similar issue. I do often feel like, well, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this? And, you know, if you embark on a computer game, it's like, well, nothing, what comes out of the end of this? And I think I can feel that sometimes with books. Like, you know, if I've got two books, I've like got this one that's like, you know, I don't know, like a informative book, and this one which is just fiction. It's like, which one should I read? You know, it's there's always that toss up. And I think as we've said, you know, that gaming can be such a rewarding experience in many ways. It can teach you a lot. It can tell a story. You know, I mean, I would balk at committing thousands of hours to games, and that's why I don't jump into online gaming so much these days, for that reason, because I just feel like I don't have that time to commit and I don't have that energy to put into it. But there are other games that are very self-contained, that were just like we were talking earlier about The Remains of Edith Finch, which is a fantastic story-based game where you're just finding out about the history of this woman's family, and she just takes you around a really fascinating house and you look at items and it sets off a story about one of her family members, and it's just about people, and it's an entirely story-based game, and it takes what 3-4 hours 5 hours. It's not a long it's a really short game, so you're not investing, you know, a lot of time in it. You're just engaging in it, in a story. It's like reading a book, really. Yeah, that's the
right. I didn't know that there were BAFTA Games Awards. That's
that was what our live show was about earlier, so
you will know by the time this goes out. You'll have listened to that one.
No, and I think as well, like, so Alex, you're like me, you like completing all the achievements on the game.
I do, yes.
And so
I think
like
there's that element of
output.
It's very much an element of like a reward, and you get rewarded for reaching certain goals in the game with certain targets, and you get nice little trophies, and they go boop, and they pop up in the corner, and then you can get 100% of the trophies if you really want to complete your list, and you get like an overall ranking for how many trophies you have overall for all your games as well, which is always quite nice. But again, in a slightly different way, I do sometimes just use gaming as a treat at the end of like a really hard day, as a reward. It's like instead of having chocolate, I'll go and play a level of whatever game I'm playing at the current time. I can't name one right now. Probably Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm well into that one now. I'm about 38 hours, I would say, which is still really, really close to the beginning. But yeah, really enjoying it so far. I've almost made it to London to invade London. I'm slowly invading all of England. It's fine.
I can actually walk to London in that time. I could walk to London in that time.
The thing is like there are as I say, there are so many different types of game. But Hannah, you know me. You know I'm a productive human being. Mm-hmm. I've run an election campaign for you.
You are my go-to data person.
Yeah, exactly.
I need data. I ask Caroline because
I like to
get a computer to work.
So I like to think that part of the reason I'm productive is because of that balance. Is because that when I sit down to work, I am not exhausted, I am not stressed, I am not grumpy. Well, I am sometimes, that's not a lie. But because, I spent time doing these things. So Elder Scrolls, I started Elder Scrolls at the weekend. I've just done you guys some screenshots for some stats here. So I have now I've played 18 hours since the weekend.
You just said only. Okay.
Yeah. So Stardew Valley, which Gem and I both love, is a game that I've played a huge amount. And this comes back, I put the achievements on this, Alex, because I love getting my achievements, and on Steam you get your achievements. So I've got 29 out of 40 achievements there. And I am trying so hard to get all 40 of those. I've also spent 553 hours playing that game.
Have you though? Because I'm always because I leave my game on pause for like an entire night, and I think that
I'm pretty good about it. The other half is terrible about it. Like his hours on these games are all worse than mine, because what he'll do is he'll do a workout and he'll wander off to the gym, he'll wander off and make his set, and he leaves it on. So his hours are bullshit. Mine are pretty accurate. And then this is the scary one, my Rust hours.
Holy God!
Okay, I have to. How many days is that? I can't do my math.
I mean, I've been playing it since 2016, so that's over 5 years.
I'm pretty sure I haven't slept that much since 2016.
Somebody do the maths.
100 days. That's 100 days.
Wow.
More. 101 days.
And that's over 5 years.
But that's in addition to the other games, which you clock up 500 hours for. Like, don't give me this, it's only 5 years, Hannah. No. I'm really genuinely impressed.
Because you know that I'm not an unproductive person.
No. My brain cannot compute this.
And this is why, the reason I'm going on about this is that we're trying to convince you to game. I'm saying, look what I can achieve and still game and be relaxed and happy. And it's one of the reasons I'm relaxed and happy is because I game. I'm loving Hannah's face now. Right.
There's a light bulb moment. Okay.
Or a horror moment.
Yeah, one of the two.
This is why we didn't win round 10.
I was not saying that. But, I'm now keeping a tally in my head of how many hours you're playing. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, I am very aware that I have an incredibly unhealthy work-life balance, in that it's a work balance.
Yes.
There was definitely a life once upon a time.
The lovely thing is we've made this part of our work-life balance by doing the podcast, so now we have a reason to game.
And in fairness, that's one of the reasons that I put all my books on Instagram, is because that way I know I'm going to make myself finish the bloody book.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's true, actually. There's a lot of games now where I'm like, I must finish it or else I'll be embarrassed on gaming the system.
It's all right. I'll always be there to be the last one.
So, Hannah, just to put you slightly on the deputy leader form.
Yeah. I'm so glad I've had that large glass of white wine. I think, let's face it, I needed it.
Gaming is a feminist issue.
Yes.
Okay, so you may not want to game, you may not ever game, but do you at least feel that it is important that, when we're talking about equality in the media and stuff like that, that we actually talk about gaming as well as a feminist issue?
Yes, of course it bloody is.
And why?
So if you read... I was so proud of that roll backwards.
So if she finds the book quickly, it's impressive.
Where bloody is it?
Also, this goes out as audio, so just for our podcast listeners,
right, there we
Hannah
go.
is looking for a book on her bookshelf.
In my head, the spine was white, not orange. Anyway, if you read Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates, you appreciate how the online space can be incredibly bloody toxic for women, and actually having these online spaces, whether they be games or forum or whatever they may be, if you have these places that are purely men-only spaces, then that's when male terrorism, for want of a better phrase, is able to kind of propagate, when these like seriously right-wing, misogynistic, abusive, horrible views are out there. And I think if we don't have women in those spaces and men are left to their own devices, bad things often happen. So I think it's, I'm probably never going to be a gamer, and I don't want you to all feel disappointed by this. You've all done an excellent job, and genuinely I have learned a lot, because I've never really understood any of it, and my brain is kind of buzzing right now. But I think fundamentally feminism is all about just wanting women to be equal to men, and I may not want a game, but I will defend to the death your right to do so, and to do so equally and safely and happily. And so I think, every young woman who grows up who wants to game should be able to do so in a safe space. And if we're not creating that in the virtual world, then what hope do we have in the real world, where arguably we have so much more kind of long-term patriarchal crappery to deal with? The virtual world is comparatively very, very, very young. I like to think we still have time to make it better. Yes, it's primarily been designed by men, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it. So I think if we can't get this right in the virtual world, we have no chance of getting this right in the real one. And from what I'm hearing from you guys, there's huge crossover between the two. Like, you don't just live in your computer games, though the amount of hours Caroline spends on computer games well lived in her computer games. I've now seen computer games as a form of Narnia. It's like,
joke, but to me it is. It's like, I'm just going to Narnia for a bit to get away from all the shit that's going on out there.
Yeah.
And on that level, you make it sound very attractive. That's probably the most attractive thing you've said about gaming all evening. I can go to Narnia. Fabulous. But I think, the two are inextricably intertwined. And I don't think you can ever truly have equality in one without having it in the other.
Jem,